Hello, my fellow travelers. Welcome back to the road trip to wholeness through South Pass Wellness. I'm Althea. Thanks so much for taking the time and joining me today. So, I wanted to check in because, of course, it's Thursday. So, we wanted to see how your trip is going. How's your boxes doing? Are you filling them out? Are you not filling them out? So, one of the things that I want to be able to talk about today in our getting rid of our highway hypnosis out of emotional numbness, right? How many of you struggle with making decisions? One of the reasons why we go into a highway hypnosis is because we have a hard time making a decision. Recently, there has been, of course, decisions being made all over the place, right? And sometimes when we don't make a decision, it gets made for us. And we get to suffer or enjoy the consequences regardless, because not all consequences are bad, right? So, now with this, I want to be able to kind of go into something for a little bit because it explains my point. So, I since about 4 years ago, I'm going to go with 4 years ago, approximately, I started having a problem with my right hip. And, really what the problem is like if I sit down for too long, then when I go to stand up, it feels like the muscle in the front of the hip area doesn't want to straighten out. It just feels like it's just tight, right? And of course, then after a little bit, like it will loosen up, and then I can, feel like I can walk normal. And when I started getting into and doing some emotional work, I was going to a chiropractor because, like, I think emotional or alternative alternative things should work in hand with your physicians, with your medical doctors, with your medical providers, or whatever you choose. Um, so I was going to a chiropractor to make sure that like everything was in a line, and I was doing well that way and everything. And it settled down for a long time, and then the last little while it has come back to the forefront, right? So working on the emotion part of that, like there has been a lot of emotions released, because of course you go in and you check each muscle or each whatever is all around the hip joint, the bone, the thigh muscles, the psoas, the whole pelvis area. You check all of that, and then it's like you get rid of everything that is like stuck in there or causing a problem or anything like that. But so I wanted to be able to kind of read out of this book, Feelings Buried Alive Never Die by Carol Trueman. In the hip area, it says fears making major decisions. Has nothing to look forward to. Lack of emotional and physical self-support, and the hip joint not wanting to accept present experiences and non-acceptance of physical experiences. Now, I do believe that to be highly accurate because, when how things get called to our attention to make a difference in our life really is sometimes through the physical manifestations of a pain or an ache or something like that. So being able to kind of address like, okay, why can I not make decisions? Okay, well, the number one reason, right, is because usually we have been taught that it doesn't matter what we choose, it's always wrong. So we got to work through that avenue. The next part of it is trusting self to make a decision and trusting that it's the right one. So we got to work through that particular avenue. Being able to make a decision on the fly and not regretting the decision, got to work through that particular area, right? So recently, of course, I decided to make a change within South Pass Wellness. So there was a little bit of that, and making sure that I can follow through with what I am attempting to do here. Because this road trip to wholeness isn't just for you. It is for me, for me too, because when you start into self-help, like it's a never-ending thing. You don't ever stop improving because, well, I mean, honestly, like I don't see myself being perfect anytime soon. So it looks like I'm gonna be here for a while. So I might as well just get stuff taken care of, right? And so being able to take care of it as it comes up, right? Okay, so recently we, my husband and I, had to make a decision. Um, the decision was, should he take a different position or should he keep running his own business? Now, there's advantages. There's advantages to both, right? The advantages of running your own business, like you get to set your hours, you get to, you know, you don't have coworker problems. You don't have, all of that kind of stuff. But there's also like if you don't get clients, you don't get money, right? So you have to make sure that those kind of things are, balanced. Well, he decided that to continue moving forward where he wants to go in his life, which I'm totally supportive of it, then he decided that it would be best to take this position. And we agreed upon it. We looked at the goods, the bads, the uglies, the beautiful parts of it. And then, of course, we realized that we also needed a plan in order to make sure that we're doing what we need to stay on top of the emotional drain that's going to come from this job. And so, like, we have agreed, like, okay, so he's going to come to the office once a week. We're going to give him a massage. We're going to do an emotion code session for him. And then, of course, we're going to still continue with our physical activities, which means we will probably start bumping up our gym time, which is great, right? Because that's part of my little box goals that I'm working on is my physical commitment, right? And I will tell you that physical commitment, so Tuesday stretched, Wednesday stretched, today stretched. It's quite impressive how non-flexible I am. I'm going to say it like that. How non-flexible. We're getting a little better, and it's interesting because like sometimes the mind makes us feel like, oh, we can do much more. And then the body is like, I don't think you're going to do that at all, as a matter of fact. So you're like, okay, this is why we take it in just little increments because we didn't get into the situation where we're at overnight. It took us years. It took us choices. It took us decisions. It took a lot of all of that to get us where we are here today on the road trip. So as we're progressing, there's going to be one thing that I want you to kind of think about. And this will get you through until our next mile marker next Monday. I think, Monday is going to be the day. So I want you to kind of make a list of what your fuel is, right? What makes you happy and what just drains your energy? We all have those things that make us very happy, like, oh my gosh, this passion is so fabulous and I'm going to do well. And this part over here, like, it just slowly sucks the life out of me. We need to be able to understand what our fuel is. Because as we're working through this, as we're getting out of emotional numbness and we're waking up, we need to understand what the fuel is now. Because we want to create a better fuel for our body, mind, and soul. We want to be able to go for longer periods of time. We want to be able to know that it's not so stressful in making decisions or changing patterns or overcoming stuff or working through beliefs. We want to make sure that we've got the proper fuel for that. Now, one of the other things that I would like you to take a look at is what has given you, for a lack of a better phrase, what's giving you a flat tire? These are those little events that come along in our life where we're like, oh, you know what? I think I've done really well. And then it happens and you're like, okay, I didn't do it very well at all. In a conversation that I had yesterday, we have to be reminded that your experience is different from mine. Mine is different from theirs. Theirs is different from hers. Hers is different from his. Everybody's experience of how they do this is going to be different. Now, all roads lead one way or the other, right? So there's many thousands of roads in order to get to where you're going, which is your overall goal. But take the time to pay attention, where has the flat tire been? One of the flat tires that was brought to my attention, which I think is a good one to work on all the time, is forgiveness. There are some times when maybe we don't understand. We think, oh, well, I forgave them for everything. And then something happens, and it kind of goes back to that whole burying the hatchet, right, with the handle sticking out. Because we do get these points in our life where we can check and see how far we've come. And then the Arbinger Institute calls it a choice point. You can either stick to the path of integrity, or you can take case building, right? So being able to kind of do this, like, we're getting out of the fork in the road. Now, there's going to be many more forks in the road that we're going to come up to. And there's going to be many more choices. But being able to, like, really get into this, what fuels you? What kind of fuel are you using? If you're having trouble in deciding what that is, sometimes it can help to be able to just write it down, see where the pros and cons are, see where the energy is going, see where it's being taken from, and then being able to start assessing, excuse me, and making a decision. Well, goodness sakes. Okay. 1 second. You know, the problem with live or doing this in one take is making sure that when you have a dry spot, you can quickly get it remedied so that you can get this and stay true. Okay. So being able to see where the fuel is coming in, what's taking it out, allows you to then assess, where do you want to keep applying the fuel. Being able to work through the forgiveness part, it's going to be able to help determine how you want to move forward. You can start by forgiving yourself. Or is it easier to forgive somebody else? You know, this journey is going to be an interesting one. There's going to be lots of little ticks that come up throughout. We're going to have little road bumps. We're going to have little potholes. And so just kind of use this as some more momentum to be able to keep going forward. Ask yourself some important questions. Be able to write it down in your journal. And then we're going to see what's happening in our next little phase of this journey. If you feel like the journey is going too fast, it's all right. You can slow down. This journey is for your pace and for your pace alone. I know that as I move through this, next Monday, I'll be able to give you a very good report on how things are progressing with my personal trip. And I look forward to hearing about yours. Don't forget to like and subscribe and give me the thumbs up, because we know that's where it's at, right? And then we will see you on Monday. Have a great weekend.